topic. I would love it if you guys could introduce yourselves first. Paul, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, Paul Raitzer, the founder and CEO of the Marketing AI Institute. Some people on the call may know me from my past life, which was as HubSpot's first partner agency. So my agency, PR 2020, was the origin of the HubSpot partner ecosystem. Back in 2007, we became their first partner. And I grew that agency. I sold that in 2021. And I've been working on AI for about a decade, but solely focused on it for the last couple of years since I sold the agency.
Amazing. Mitch?
Yeah, I'm Mitch Briggs. I'm a SEO success manager here at Demandwell. So working with a lot of our different customers with their SEO and digital marketing strategy. I've been doing digital marketing and SEO about 15 years, in and out of kind of in-house and agency life. So experiencing both of those worlds, and everything from, large e-commerce sites to small startups. Worked on a lot of different projects and seen a lot of different things. So hopefully I'm able to translate as much as that experience and knowledge into some, insights about, this new AI rise. I know I'm excited actually to hear a lot from Paul as well. In our initial talks, he's educated me a lot on what this could mean and all the different use cases. And so excited to be here for that.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you, Paul. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So when we talked last, we were talking about AI for revenue marketing specifically, and maybe we can start there today. Basically, AI for marketers can be used to kind of automate things or personalize things or enhance creativity. And I would love to get your take on that, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, when we start talking about AI, and I guess maybe we frame this with what is AI, like it's a really good conversation beginning point. So we like to think of it as the science of making machines smart, and just think of machines as software. So if you're using SEO software or writing software or advertising software, social media software, like whatever kind of software you're using, historically, it only does what you tell it to do. You write all the rules to make this software take actions on your behalf. And it doesn't get any smarter unless you get smarter. So with AI, the software actually learns from inputs or data. So as an email, as open rates happen, and your website, as traffic arrives to certain pages for certain keywords, the AI learns from that, and it can actually recommend actions and strategies based on that information. So it's kind of like a real simple way to think about it. The two reasons you would use AI, which is just smarter technology, would be to increase efficiency, like to become more productive at something, which thereby reduces your costs, or to accelerate revenue. So reduce costs, accelerate revenue are the two main business outcomes you would seek with an AI tool.
Yeah, and that's like the main use case that's like the main business outcomes for everything.
Yes, means
like AI
everything. Everywhere you use software, you will be using AI in the near future.
Yeah. I loved hearing examples from you about different kinds of AI that people can use for personalization, especially because I hadn't really heard that much about that. And we obviously know now a lot more about AI writing stuff for you, but this is a thing that's been around for a long time that actually, like, as a marketer, I didn't even know.
Yeah. Personalization is a bit of like the holy grail of AI. It's been talked about for years as the thing everyone was trying. And for many of us in marketing, personalization means name and company tokens in emails, like or their name in the subject line. Like, that's personalization. That is not AI. That is just a rule that says, put the company name here, put the email. Personalization in email can actually learn individual preferences. When do I open my email? So it sends it to me at that time. What subject line is most likely to get me to open? If you're including links, if you're curating links, as a lot of newsletters do, which links am I most likely to click on? So it can actually personalize that experience. The same can happen on the web. If it knows what pages I've already looked at, or what content I've downloaded, or what events I've attended, it can personalize my web experience based on that knowledge. So a minimum example would be, I come to your website. Do you even know if I'm a customer or a prospect at that moment? That's like the most basic form, is like, and that can be rules based, but you can get into like, think about your experience on Amazon. When you go to Amazon, it knows everything you've done, every product you've looked at, how long you spent on the product page, what you've previously bought, what you're likely to buy again. Think about that applied to your web experience for users, that you know everything they've done, what events they've come to, what they've registered for, what they've downloaded. and you're trying to make predictions about their behavior. What are they going to do next? So you can make that as seamless as possible for them. That can be carried over into your conversational agent or your chatbot. So there's all these ways that personalization can occur. And most marketers at best are writing some rules to present a sequence and a journey.
Yeah, like that's still kind of like the fundamental difference that you described, which is like you're either telling the thing what to do or it's like learning and getting smarter on its own. Yeah. Love that.
Yeah, when I think of those three buckets too, like automation of repetitive tasks, personalization, and enhancing creativity. And if I just like shrink that down to like the folks I work with that are content managers or demand gen folks, right? Especially with SEO, there's usually a workflow that's going on, whether it's doing keyword research, identifying the keyword, creating a creative brief, getting a first draft, editing that draft, putting it into the web page, publishing the page, and kind of doing that over and over again. And the more
100%.
you kind of, you look, what's the title tag? What's the slug? What's the, there's so much to do there. And if you're doing 2 of those a week, then it's, there's a lot of tasks in there that, like, I think we talked about earlier, where you just, if you were to lay all that out and think, what could AI help me do along this path? Maybe it's a first draft, maybe it's an edit, maybe it's doing some research, doing a summary, a transcript. All of those things are really cool. And then the personalization part almost is a way of thinking, I don't have to have one page on my site that has my one message on it that I have to take to the market, right? Like my tagline. It's more based on this person searching in this way. I know something about them that I should present them and almost echo back to them what they're using in search. So you can create more content that way that is essentially, it's not personalized in knowing like, hi, Paul, you've been a customer since 2002, welcome back.
Right.
But it is still thinking about, because the process is easier, you can be more personalized with your individual pages. And that just in turn kind of leads to enhanced creativity. If you're not having to spend all the time doing those things, you can actually think and put your take more into the content and hopefully create something better.
Yeah, and I think some people do fear AI. If you don't understand it, it's a very natural thing to just worry about it. Like, is this going to take my job? Like, I don't even understand exactly what it does. That's a very, very natural thing. It's actually the most natural thing to think about AI because it is abstract if you don't know what it does. But you just highlighted like 2 key things. One, in a lot of ways, what's going to happen is the software you use is going to get smarter and it's going to reduce the need for you to do those repetitive things. So rather than you doing 15 steps in the process, maybe you'll do 4 of them. It's not going to like replace the need for the human to be involved. And then instead of doing those other 11, you're going to do something else on your wish list that you usually don't have time for. So it's not like replacing you. The other thing is it's going to enable you to do things that you just wouldn't have done. Like, we don't have time as humans to customize thousands and thousands of pages for every individual person that's visiting the website. But if you can actually start spinning up content on the fly that's personalized based on people's history and their behavior and their intent, that's a really interesting potential play in marketing that we just couldn't do a year ago. So yeah, it's like it's doing the repetitive things for you in theory over time. And then it's going to unlock all these possibilities. And if you know what it's capable of, you can actually start sitting back as a marketer, an SEO professional, ABM specialist, like whatever it is. And you can start connecting the dots of like, wow, that'd be amazing actually if I had a tool that could do X, Y, and Z for me.
Yeah, I'm curious to get your thoughts too on, I saw the demo with HubSpot and their ChatSpot AI. And then I know Salesforce just out, and Microsoft, they're all kind of, like you were saying earlier, it's like the UX is changing to be AI driven. How far away is that, right? Is that, I mean, it's somewhat here, but is it also, is it a year from now when you can actually interact with software that way? Or is it a longer kind of slope, or is it out of the box at this point and happening?
It's going to happen pretty quick. So if you're not familiar, what he's referring to on Monday, Dharmesh Shah, the co-founder of HubSpot, announced ChatSpot, which he personally built as an integration into HubSpot that'll let you go in. It's in kind of a closed beta right now. I mean, you can get on the wait list for it. I think he's releasing 100 a day, I believe is what he tweeted, that it was like 100 new people a day he's putting into it. So what it's enabling you to do is you'll be able to converse with your CRM system and say, hey, can you pull me a report on new contacts added last month and how many of them were in the SaaS industry? And it'll actually query the CRM and it'll do that for you. Draft me an email I can send to high intent individuals on this list, and it'll draft the email for you. So you're going to be able to actually take action in your CRM and automation system through either voice or text. He has a voice component built into it. So that's enabling an AI agent to actually take actions on your behalf. And it's real now. You know, how well it works, how many times you get an error rate is probably going to be pretty high, I would imagine, early on. But there's no technological barriers to getting rid of those. It's really all just like training the AI agent properly on the back end. So I think they're going to iterate really fast. I assume with Salesforce then entering the fray on Tuesday with Einstein GPT, which they're going to bake into all areas of the Salesforce platform, the competition is going to mandate that they all move very fast. So every CRM system is going to have the same kind of capabilities within months, or at least introduce those capabilities within months. So my guess is by the middle to end of 2023, they're going to be pretty reliable. Like, you're going to be able to work through a lot of the bugs, and they're going to start to do a lot of the things that right now, I think the example when I wrote the World of Bits piece about like, this is where the AI was going a couple of weeks ago, I gave an example of sending an email, and HubSpot took 21 clicks at minimum. And now in theory, you might not even need a click. And I think a lot of the same thing's going to happen in SEO. Like, you're going to get to points where you're just, okay, build the meta tags for this, or the description, create the headings for it. Like, that's the kind of stuff you can sort of do in ChatGPT now and other writing tools. Is here's my blog post, like what would be good headings for it, but then have that connected to an actual database that predicts the keyword success and things like that. So I think it's where all software is going, and depending on the industry you're in or the type of software you're using, it may be in 3 months, it may be in 12 months, it might be in 2 years, but everybody's racing in that direction.
Yeah,
go ahead, Mitch.
I was thinking that even with like a CMS, as a lot of marketers I work with struggle with all the technical things that they have to work with, right?
Yeah.
They have to be an expert in their marketing automation system, their CRM, Google AdWords, Google Analytics, their CMS, all these platforms that, if you don't know where to click or how to do something, it can be really, debilitating to have to navigate and learn all of these things. And a lot of times we'll tell people, hey, you need to do these things to your site. You need to do that. It's like, man, I don't even know where to go to change the meta title. I don't know where to publish this page. I don't know how to create a new template.
So I think that's going to get fixed pretty fast, because what you can do is so like OpenAI. So again, I'll take a step back for a second. So the way ChatGPT works and other tools like, with Jasper and Writer and all the HyperWrite and all these like applications are built on top of our language models. And a language model is basically trained on a corpus of knowledge. In the case of OpenAI, the internet. It consumes the internet, and it learns how to predict words in a sentence. So when you give it a prompt, it's making predictions about what the word should be. It doesn't actually know anything. Like, it's not writing based on its true knowledge. It's just making predictions about words based on what it was trained on. So you can imagine a near-term future where I go into a new SaaS platform as a marketer or an existing platform, and they have trained an AI agent on the user guide. So like, when I go into a new platform, like let's say CB Insights, like I recently joined CB Insights got a license there. I was going in today and I was trying to do something. I was like, I don't remember what to do. Like, it was a month ago and 75 calls ago that I learned how to use this platform. And now I got to go find the user guide, and I reach out to this, versus an agent that would pop up and say, how do I build one of those logo maps again? And it just like tells me, do you want me to build you one off of this list? Yeah. Can you do? That's what's going to happen. Like, you'll be able to train these models on all the knowledge bases that right now as marketers, we have to go seek out. And that's doable right now. Like, that's not futuristic stuff. That is companies knowing it's possible and going and tuning a model to their knowledge base, basically.
It's totally amazing. And basically just like eliminates a user, or like a learning curve.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is like
all the inefficiency of having to like learn new things. And then when a software company pushes out new features and you got to go learn a new feature. Yeah.
Totally.
which sounds wonderful. I mean, let's be honest, like it sounds kind of
Yeah.
nice.
There
It,
are some questions in the chat that I want to make sure
Yeah,
we
let's
get
do it.
to, but go ahead, Mitch, if you want to wrap up on this
I
one.
was just, yeah, I was thinking what your thoughts are on like, I can remember, early in my career, one of the things that got me noticed or saw like seen as valuable in an organization was I was the one that knew how to operate these things,
Yeah.
right? I knew
Mm,
how to run a GA report. I knew how to set up Google AdWords. I knew what buttons to click and unclick, right? That knowledge I was able to turn into higher salary and more advancement and more effectiveness. And I was the one that knew those things and knew how to leverage and use the tools. So like, I think that is a big differentiator for a lot of marketers is that there's kind of lots of different types of marketers. Ones that maybe they're really creative and have a good eye and can see, really good messaging and copywriting, right? And then there's others that are more like myself. That's like, I can get in there
operational.
and connect the wires and make
Mhm.
everything work for you so that the manager can say, send the email, Mitch, and I can make it happen.
Right.
Um, that kind of gets a little weird, right? It's like I'm a little bit more later on in my career where I'm not doing those things, but I can see how, if that's your day-to-day job, if you're the operator and that's where you have value and that value goes away, what does that kind of mean? I think.
Yeah, it's a really interesting like thought process to go through of where does this take us.
Mhm.
In the interim, to get the machine to do what you want, even if it's an AI agent you're talking to, you have to know what to tell it what to do.
Mhm.
So your ability to prompt the AI actually matters a lot right now. So all that expertise you've built up is going to make you really good at telling the agent what to
Mm.
do. And so the unknown part is, so like I think about this as writers, like we've got a writer summit coming up. I think about this as graphic designers, photographers, video producers, like anybody who creates things, generates things. They're going to be way better at using the AI tools designed to help with that process because that's their living, it's their domain expertise. So I'm pretty good at prompting an AI how to write because I've trained writers for 22 years in my career. It's what we did. But if you asked me to prompt Dolly to generate an image, that is not my world. Like I don't know how to explain what's in my head because I don't do it for a living. And so I think the people that have the domain expertise, the email marketers, the SEO professionals, the analytics people, they're going to get way more out of these AI agents because they can tell it what to do and then they can assess the output. That's the other key is like
Mhm.
knowing, is it quality what I'm getting? If I had to go in and do it, it's like, I don't even know if this is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So the question becomes 10 years from now, when we've had a 10-year run of people just being able to prompt the machine, and the next generation didn't have to learn by doing it manually and getting their hands dirty, how do they know how to
Yeah.
prompt the
That's
machine? I don't know. Like
Mhm.
it's
the
a great
same with
unknown about
like,
where we're going.
with engineering too. If
Yeah.
AI can write code for you and you don't know the basics, it's good for a senior coder that can look back and see like, wow, this is all really good and correct, so I will publish this.
Right.
If you never learned the basics of coding or the basics of, if you've never been in the trenches, then how do you know what's good? That's a little weird too. Of like, will the next generation not have to do the clicking?
I mean, I've actually, and I want to, we want to get to these other questions, but
Yeah.
I haven't come up with a great analogy of this, but as you're talking, I'm thinking about like trades and repair people and, like someone who maybe used to work on, I don't know, our dryer broke recently, used to work on dryers 20 years ago. Like there was much more manual. There wasn't electronics. There was no computer on board. They just fixed stuff. Well, now there's computers and they learned how to work with the computers and like fix,
Mhm.
it's still the same people that evolved to the technology. So
Mhm.
somewhere I think people are still going to learn the craft. They're still going to have to understand and critically analyze how the machine's doing what it's doing. And I think we'll just naturally evolve to where people learn to work with the machines, but can still be domain experts, just not maybe in the same way they used to do it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and there's always a strategy element, I think, and there's always going to be like, if a Salesforce admin can generate all these reports faster, but they're pushing the envelope on what the right reports to create are and making sure their company has all the right information. Like that's not the thing that the AI is doing. So I do feel like there's still skills. Okay, so there's a question for Paul about advanced AI. by big companies like Amazon to create personalization. Do you have any recommendations for tools for smaller companies specifically?
Yeah, there's lots. So it's pretty natural to assume when we talk about this stuff, especially the big stuff like personalization, that it is an enterprise play. And the beauty of what's happening in AI right now is the cost to build this stuff is plummeting. Like, to give you a really tangible example, 2 weeks ago, if I wanted to use Chat GPT and I wanted to like write an article with it, it would cost me 2 cents to write 750 words. They dropped the price by 10x. So now it costs 2/10 of a penny to write it. So I can write 7,500 words for 2 cents now. And all it took was them getting the cost to do the compute cheaper, and it passes on. So the cost to do these things is actually being driven down very, very quickly. And so a lot of tools to do personalization, like email subject line writing or send time optimization, you can actually go get a SaaS tool that can do that stuff for maybe it's $20 a month or $30 a month. Like, there are lots of small tools and small businesses that can benefit from it. So I would just search like AI for personalization, and then like for email or for conversational agents. We actually have we're doing a AI for personalization campaign with AWS. And believe it or not, their models are approaching the point where they can be used at any size company in some cases, and especially their personalization ones. So there's some free stuff coming out real soon on that might be a good starting point for you.
Awesome. This is kind of a similar question. It's just where and how do we get started? I think you kind of alluded to it, like start Googling around and like things are coming.
Yeah, so the two ways I teach it, use case and problem based. So the use case is where you start. That is, hey, I spend 50 hours a month writing blog posts that I then, optimize from an SEO perspective. That's where most of my time is going. Are there tools that can help me do that more efficiently? So you start with what you're already doing or your team is doing if you're a leader of a team. Look at where is most of our time and energy going, and then go to that and say AI for copywriting or AI for SEO, whatever it is. And then just find a tool or two to start testing. You have to test this stuff to like really understand it. And then it's just ongoing experimentation. You just keep stacking use cases that are successful.
Amazing. I would love to chat a little bit about the impacts on content marketing and SEO. And as we talked about last week, like there kind of are two different prongs to this conversation. There's the AI generated copy part of it and how will Google respond to that? And then there's the part of it that's about changing the way people search. Yeah. So that's your prompt. Take it away.
And Mitch, I know you'll have thoughts on this one too. So certainly if you are a content creator or a leader of a team that creates content, there's an immediate impact on what you do and how you do it. And if you're an agency or freelancer that charges people for content, the same is true. You have been impacted, whether you knew it or not. So I think from a strategy standpoint, we have to accept that AI is able to assist us in writing, and it can help us be much more efficient in how we do it, and maybe even improve the quality quite a bit. On the side of how is that content, like, so let's say we use AI to write 100 blog posts this year and we publish them on our site and they're optimized great and all this stuff, like we follow that strategy. What does Google think about that? And I guess we have to throw Bing in there too. What do they think about that is the first question. And Google has answered that they don't care. As long as it's valuable, they don't care if AI helps you write it. Now, the bigger question, and this is maybe the conversation point, Mitch, is because Bing is including ChatGPT in search, where it's just giving answers rather than blue links, and Google will probably likely have to follow, where we won't maybe see as much traffic to our sites. Maybe there won't be as many organic visits from clicking blue links. That's the great unknown right now, is what is the impact going to be on search and on organic traffic? And that's the part there's a lot of debate around. But I think, we've maybe Landon and Mitch, you can add the context here. My assumption is there's going to be some impact. I don't know if it's 5 percentage point drop this year in terms of the traffic you see to your site, or 20 percentage points. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be zero, and I don't think it's going to go up. So I think we have to wait and see what Google does, because Bing, let's be real, Bing has like 3% of the market. So even after ChatGPT, they gained like 2 percentage points. So Google still has like 90 some percent of the market or something like that. Nothing is going to fundamentally affect your site in a noticeable way until Google does what they're going to do. So all we're doing is guessing right now at what Google is really going to do. So Mitch, what were your thoughts on that topic?
Yeah, I think, and from what I've seen, even using the Bing tool, we talked a little bit about this because we had our questions for SEOs on the previous session, and most of them were around AI.
Yeah.
So I was like, just come to this one instead. But I think one thing that we were discussing was like, it's kind of what happened with voice search, and also with you know, an improvement in like the knowledge graph of like position 0, where Google's just going to give you an answer on the search page versus making you click a blue link. You know, we saw disruptions when that happened, and we saw disruptions in different types of searches. I think if you're looking for a date, if you're looking at who sang this song, you're looking for what's the temperature outside, you don't have to click. You know, if you're weather.com, I've been worried, right? You know, you don't, weather.com has seen a lot of content go away because no one has to click on them anymore. If you're a recipe site, if you're the, you know, those types of like content farms, things like that, where you're just doing simple answers to questions and people have to click on your site to get there and weed through the ads. I think there's going to be a larger impact to those, and even to some degree, more like B2C versus, you know, B2B type of searches. I also think the AI assisted or search is going to be able to handle more like multi-step, really complex queries. So instead of saying like soup recipe, here's a list of great soup recipes, I think that'll still be something somebody wants to weed through and look at pictures and find the best one. But if it's, I'm planning a 10-course meal for vegetarians and I need a shopping list and a meal plan, and I live on the coast, so make sure there's fresh seafood involved. You know, I said vegetarians, but maybe they're pescatarians. um, and where should I buy it, right?
Yeah.
That could probably give you an answer instead of doing 15 searches to kind of piece all that stuff together yourself. It can just say, here's your meal plan. Here's what you need to go shop for. There's a great place next door of, you know, I don't know if it can actually do that, of like, you should buy it from, you know, Rick's Fish Market. But I think those are the types of things it might do more advanced than just simple, like, I'm looking to educate myself on a topic, give me some resources to do so. I think that will always be something people like to see results of. And the fact that Google kind of released infinite scroll is kind of an interesting thing too, because now it's giving you more options to look through, which suggests people like looking through more things, kind of looking through a list of stuff to find what they think is the most trustworthy versus just getting a single answer. So yes, the impact will not be zero, and it probably won't be an improvement of going up. But I think depending on your audience, depending on the types of searches you're trying to win for, you know, if you're trying to win for really simple answer question type things, it's probably better for you to focus more on large topics, large areas of expertise, and building that up. Because once you get them on the site too, to keep them there, each visit's going to be more valuable than before.
Yeah, the other thing I would add is, yeah, I think I published something a week or two ago about the importance of more human content, as I was calling it.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff where it's you, like unscripted you, when there's points of view, there's obvious expertise that no AI is like regurgitating or writing. So I think podcasts and interviews and unique like narratives and editorials where you're the only one who's going to say it that way. And I think that kind of content. So I wouldn't recommend like wholesale changes to anyone's SEO or content strategy right now. It's a bit of a wait and see. But I would start making some movement toward really unique content. I think the listicles and all these things that you know that AI can write in a second, and any one of us could go give the exact same prompt, you're not going to win at that game. You know, it's going to be surfaced as an answer without going to anybody's site. All you're doing is giving more training data to the language model. So yeah, I think it's just really pay attention.
Yeah, even within written content, like I dropped Google's guidance on how it's going to handle AI generated content. And even within that, if you read between the lines, they're still saying things like you were just saying, like unique expertise, like all these things that you just can't get from AI right now. And like AI is not going to know your unique perspective on a topic. And that still needs to be infused regardless of if it's like written or if it's a podcast or video or whatever. So the helpful content stuff all still applies.
Yeah.
Yep.
And one thing we're coaching a lot of folks on is to think about the page and your site holistically as well as the experience being unique. Do you have something for everyone kind of on that page? It's not enough, like you said, to just have the information and that be the page and hope that ranks. You have to have the information. That's kind of the baseline. Make sure you have the 101 level content. But if you're not sprinkling in your expertise, if you're not providing a video or links to other really great thought leadership posts around this subject or options or, a PDF to download, like think about what the best page could be for a term like, I don't know, CRM software. They don't want to just go to a product page. It should have a combination of what CRM software is, what it does, what the benefits, all of that kind of information, as well as what are the trends, what are the things that are your own spin on these things, your own unique content, different resources, like thinking of the page that you're offering Google and searchers as a whole page and a whole site that has related information. That's what's allowing folks to win in terms of demonstrating authority, demonstrating breadth and depth of information. It's not enough just to have, just the bare bones stuff.
The other thing I would just add to kind of cap this part of it is I think that SEO and analytics software and knowledge of what those reports tell you is going to be really critical in the near future, because I think we're all going to be trying to watch for trends and anomalies, trying to say, oh, it's happening. Like I noticed this thing, and it's not going to be a little drop in page views here or there. Like you're going to have to really drill in and figure out what is going on. And are there certain kinds of keywords that are dropping, certain kinds of posts, to your point about like which posts are still going to rank and which ones are just going to get surfaced. So I think it's probably going to be a near term where it's going to be really, really important to have people know what they're looking at. Like it's going to be anomalies to AI. It won't have been trained on this. Like an AI thing's not going to find that for you per se, or know what it means. So we're going to need professionals who know what they're looking at and can actually figure out what to do as a result of that information. The AI might be able to help you do like anomaly detection and find patterns in your data, but you're still going to need to really do the hard thinking around what's going on, and are we starting to actually see impact from the change in how search is presented.
I would love if we could quickly cover something we talked about last week also. We just have a few more minutes here. And so if anyone has any remaining questions, please drop them in the Q&A and we'll try to get to them. But last week, one thing we talked about was like kind of the way the technology has changed search over the last 10 years. There have been many things like AI that have kind of like disrupted the search space. And it has impacted the way that people search. So I don't know, Mitch, do you know what I'm talking about? Do you want to talk about that real quick?
I think I touched on a little bit with like voice and rich snippets being,
Yeah.
The big things there. But I think too, even just like the rise of different tools to help you understand what people are searching and how to go about thinking of what do I include on that page. I think it's kind of a question that we have too. That's like, what do we need to do to cut through the noise? What do we need to do to differentiate ourselves as a true authority? And Google has kind of double, triple down on like, you have to be helpful and authoritative, but what does that mean from like a giant algorithm standpoint that has to crawl and understand the internet on a daily, hourly basis, right? It's not like it's actually, oh, I know Mitch Briggs, he's been doing this for 15 years. Let's rank his thing higher than everybody else's. That's not enough. I wish one day it will know that we're the authority, but there's other things that matter. And what it's looking at is kind of your content in relation to the rest of the content on your site as well. So it's, if you think about just the page itself is kind of answering that one query, but how does it know the relationship between that and other things that you talk about? Do you have 15 other pages that are similar and look at, not only you're talking about this subject, but all these 20 related subjects. So going broader with your your content, even pushing the boundaries of kind of relevancy and solving problems for your audience.
Mhm.
How those things interconnect is really critical as well. And then I think kind of what I was saying earlier, like, don't just have pages with text on them, right? Text is a big thing that Google can understand, and it's part of what some people want, but including things like video, including things like links to other great related pieces of information, that you can be helpful in more than one way, and not just your content, but just the experience itself is something
Mhm.
that people can find really helpful and informative.
This is a super related question that we have in the Q&A here. Chris says, I think using ChatGPT for content marketing is interesting in theory, but I'm worried it will leave our content generic and unable to cut through the noise. Yeah, that's exactly what we were talking about. He then says, any thoughts on how to use AI tools for content generation without compromising on quality or uniqueness? What do you guys think about that?
Just you keep the human in the loop. I
Yeah.
mean, the easiest thing is, I mean, let's be okay. So let's be honest. Like what we're seeing today is 2-year-old technology. So when you're using ChatGPT, that tech was sitting in their lab 2 years ago. We are not seeing the state of the art in what these models are capable of doing, and the state of the art is sitting in their labs right now. So it's a matter of how this stuff gets released. So while I'm telling you, like, just keep the human in the loop, make sure the human does more, you're going to be shocked in a few months from now how good these things get at generating human level writing. Like it's, and they can be tuned to your style of writing. So almost imagine a year or two from now, you have your own tuned language model based on everything you've ever written or said. So I can upload my books. I can upload all the talks I've ever given, all the podcasts I've ever done, and say, here, learn me. And then when it generates something, it's going to sound as though I wrote it. That is not sci-fi. It is not years away. It's approachable in the next like 12 months. So everything we're saying about this, we have to understand this is a moving target. We are in like the first inning. So, you know, some would say we're in the first batter in the first inning, to use a metaphor for baseball. Like it's very early in the development of this technology. So it's going to keep getting better. I think that we have to at some point take a stance. Like, I'm just not going to let the AI write the thing. Like I'm going to use it for ideation, for outlining, for improving my writing, for doing summarization of my writing. But at some point, organizations and individuals are going to have to say, like, it's just not how I want to use it. Like, I don't use AI writing tools in my workflow. Nothing I write on LinkedIn, I write every day on LinkedIn. Nothing is touched by AI. I don't even use Grammarly on it. Like when I write blog posts, I don't use AI. When I generate scripts for podcast, I don't use AI. Like, and I'm a writer, and I just don't need it. I don't want it. I like the critical thinking process of creating content. So I want to keep doing that. Now I do use it in other areas, summarization, transcription, ideation. Great. Like it's perfect for that. And that's all I really want it for. And it's probably all I'm going to use it for. But other people aren't writers by trade, and they don't have a voice because they can't get the words out of their mind. That's not what they do. And so this is going to give them a voice. Like it's going to democratize the power of words, is what I said before. Like anybody is going to be able to write at a really high level in the future just by saying, this is what I want to say, and here's what I'm trying to convey. And it's going to learn how to do that for you. So it's early. I mean, we could do this webinar a year from now and it's going to be a totally different story, I would imagine.
Yeah. An analogy that comes to mind for me is like ghostwriting has pretty much always been a thing.
Yeah.
Which is just like another human doing the work, and the non-writers out there don't have to be excellent writers to make that happen.
Yeah. Spoiler alerts. Most CEOs can't write.
Yeah.
And they're the ones with the books.
Totally. Any last thoughts, Mitch, before we wrap?
Man, I just have my wheels turning. It's really fun to think about like how early we are. I think it'll be interesting. The question I get a lot too is like, well, how's Google going to react to this type of content? And I think, Paul, we talked about it. How are people going to react when they actually read it? Are we going to evolve to the point where people can actually tell that this was written by AI and that's going to be a turnoff, and they're going to want to seek something else? You know, just like we can see, you know, like the fake stuff and things on Instagram, people start to be like, that's fake. That's CGI, you know.
Yeah, that's a filter.
That would have fooled somebody 20 years ago, but it doesn't fool us now because we're used to seeing it.
Yeah.
And I think just thinking about some of those metrics too, of like if you wanted to churn out 100 blog posts in a year using AI, that's, I think, different than 100 every day for 5 days, right? Those are things that are like, that's the stuff I think Google's going to be paying attention to, is the true spammers and abusers and the
Yes.
algorithm chasers that are trying to abuse this stuff, versus those that might want to utilize it to help optimize workflows and do repetitive tasks and summarizations.
If
So
they can teach models to write at a human level, they're going to be able to teach them to find the writing and identify it. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you both so much. We do have to wrap, and I just want to share
you,
that we're launching a weekly workshop series called the Sustainable Growth Weekly. And next week, Mitch Briggs is going to be talking more about future-proofing your SEO content in this current age of AI. And you can register at demandwell.com/SGW. And we would love to see you there. We'll keep jamming on this. Paul, thank you so much.
Thank you,
For
everyone.
being our expert. Mitch, thank you. Everyone, thank you for joining. Have a good rest of your days.